Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be learning about the ASVAB. I'm assuming that if you're here today you are either interested in learning more about the ASVAB or you're planning on taking it soon and you want to learn how you can do better. If that's the case, then that's perfect because that's exactly what I'm here to do today. Before we get started though, I want to introduce two of the cutest little co-hosts that are going to be helping me. My puppies decided they want to take a nap on me right now, so I'm going to be assisted by them. And yes, my shirt does say Wicked Smart.
My boy's wicked smart.
If you get that reference, you get some extra points. From me, not on the ASVAB. Anyways, let's get into it. So first off, before we get started, I just want to add a little disclaimer that this video is for information purposes only. I'm not affiliated with anyone, I'm not sponsored by anyone, and I cannot guarantee you any success on the ASVAB. All I can do is say that when I took it, I did pretty well, and hopefully pass along some of the tips and tricks and things that I did that I think helped me. Now, before we talk about how we can do well on the ASVAB, let's discuss what the ASVAB is. For that, we can go to the military.com website. First of all, the ASVAB is an acronym and it stands for Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's a long way of saying that it is a timed multi-aptitude test. It's given at MEPS, which is the Military Entrance Processing Station. Now this test is used to not just determine whether you are a good fit to join the service, but also which branch you might serve best for and what jobs you might hold after you finish basic training or boot camp. From my understanding of the ASVAB, it tries to measure not only your basic intelligence level, but what specific tasks you might be best suited for based on what your strengths and weaknesses might be. Also, a lot of jobs in the military have a minimum ASVAB score that you might need to get. So if there's a certain job that you want to do in the military, let's say you want to do infantry, that minimum ASVAB score to become an infantryman might not be as high, so you may not have to stress out as much about the ASVAB if that's all you want, versus if you're trying to get in as a nuke or a linguist or into the intelligence community, they may require higher ASVAB scores. But either way, I recommend doing the best job that you can right off the bat, because you may think that you want a certain job in the military and be willing to settle for a lower score, but then you might get in and discover that you actually are passionate or you want to transfer over to another job in the military, and if you get in and you find out that your scores aren't high enough, you might have to take the time out to re-study for it, retake the test to get a higher score. So just with anything, any opportunity you're given in life, try your hardest the first time, because even if it doesn't pay off now or you don't think it matters now, it could matter further down the line. Anyway, that's what military.com had to say about the ASVAB. Now, like I said, when I took it, I did pretty well, so I'll go ahead and show you what the scores will look like when you get them. This was my test, or the printout that I got after I took it, and as you can see right here, it was a little while ago, so things may have changed since then. So you definitely want to first off do your research and see what differences might be, what some of the updates might be. There might not be this many sections right now. There may be less, there may be more. When I took it, they had just started doing computer-based tests, so I think they gave you an option. You might have been able to choose to do a written test, or you could have chose the computer one. Now they may not even give you an option. I have no idea. But anyways, these were the sections that were on the test when I took it, and these are the individual scores. I believe this is the number of questions correct out of however many questions there were. But this is section like word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, general science. There was one for shop and automotive. That might be what that is. There's a mechanical comprehension, mathematical knowledge, and then mentally assembling rotating objects. I'm not sure which section that is on here, but as you can see here, also each branch has their own scoring system too. So based on this information right here, they kind of put together their own little categories and they give you a score out of that for these different areas. I'm not sure what these subjects are exactly, but if you want to Google it, I'm sure the internet might be able to tell you, or maybe some of that information is in some of the study resources I'll list out later. So this is the Army's numbers, the Air Force right here, Navy, and Marines. So if you scroll down to the bottom, it has an AFQT percentile score right here. So what is the AFQT according to military.com? ASVAB test scores are broken down by the individual subtests and their composites. One of the most critical of these scores is the AFQT, or Armed Forces Qualification Test, which is used to determine whether you are qualified to join the military service. The AFQT is part of the ASVAB, not a separate test. It is a score derived from 4 of the ASVAB subtests that is used along with other criteria to determine your eligibility for service. The AFQT consists of your results in arithmetic reasoning, math knowledge, verbal expression times 2. Now, what is a good ASVAB score? Says each military service has different minimum ASVAB score requirements for entering the service or holding specific types of jobs. The highest you can get is a 99. And I remember reading somewhere that it doesn't actually go up to 100, and the reason that they top it off at 99 is they want to let everyone know that even if you do the very best, there's still always room for improvement. So you'll always be a 99 and never a 100. Now, the information I'm going off of and personal experiences I'm going off of happened, a few years ago, almost a decade ago. So things may have changed, and I haven't done extensive research into the specifics on what might have changed since then. I'm just going off of my story and what I did back then, because even if some of the details have changed, I think the general principles will still hold up. Alright, so now that we've gotten out of the way what the ASVAB is, let's go ahead and talk about what we can do to prepare for it. So the first tip I have, if it's not too late and if you're still in school, pay attention. When I took the test, I had been out of college for a couple years and just been working. So it had been a while since I had done any high school math or high school science. And most of the stuff on the ASVAB is what you would learn in high school. The things that I had to do was basically relearning what I had already learned. Now, if I had taken the ASVAB straight out of high school, I probably wouldn't have had to study as much. But because it had been so long, I really needed to refresh and get my brain back into the mode that it was when I was learning and studying those things. So tip number 1, if you can, if you're in school, especially high school, pay attention. Pay attention to your math classes, your science classes, your reading classes, your writing classes, because all of those things will come into play. The next tip I have, there are a lot of great resources on the web. This is one website. It'll give you a short test or a full test, so you can go there. There's packets on different government websites, and if you just do a Google search for ASVAB prep or ASVAB practice tests, there's a lot of good stuff you can find there. So the internet is your friend. Alright, the next tip I have is get some good study resources. One of the things that I got was flashcards, and you could do some studying and make your own, but I went ahead and just bought some off of Amazon. These are the Barron's brand. Now, first off, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not trying to endorse any specific brand. I just went back into my Amazon cart from back in the day and looked to see exactly what I purchased just so I could show those. But keep in mind, there are other brands out there. There are lots of different options. And like I said, you don't even have to buy anything. You can maybe make your own flashcards if you want some. But I use these flashcards because they were easy to carry around. They had different facts. They were tailored to the ASVAB. So I like these. Now this is the exact one that I bought back in the day. Now here's some example of the cards with all 9 subtests of the exam. Comprehensive practice, so some more examples of it. But now there is a newer version out, so you can see the price, and yeah, so that's about that. Now the next thing I got was some practice books. So this is the one that I used, Kaplan. They make several different study books for different exams. There might be more options out now. I really haven't researched to see what other brands are out there, but I know this was one that I had seen floating around for a while, so I decided to pick it up, and it did a good job. And I believe this one might have some practice tests as well. So these books that I'm about to show you, they gave you practice tests, they gave you general information on the subjects that are in there, but then on top of that, they explained to you what the test is, the history of the test. They gave different tips on how to study for it, as well as what the format is. So with any test you're taking, it helps to know, okay, this section might have 50 questions, or this section might have 100 questions, and this section might give you 30 minutes, or this section might give you an hour. That way, when you do practice tests, you can know about how long it's going to take you. So what I would do is when I was taking practice tests, I would set a timer on there. So okay, the math section is going to be 30 minutes. So then I would set a timer for 30 minutes, and then I would start the timer, I would do the test, and I would see how far I got and how well I did when I was actually under pressure. Now that was a little further down when I started studying, and I studied for about a month or two when I got time after work, before work. At first, I actually didn't use the timer. At first, I just studied the material. I just kind of looked at the questions, but then as I got more familiar with the material, then I started doing the time tests. And I only had so many time tests. These don't come with an unlimited amount of tests, or at least they didn't when I studied from them. So if I had 10 tests, I saved those for the end, and then I would do one a day. But this is the older version of the book. There is a new one by Kaplan, the ASVAB Prep Plus 2018-2019. So that is the newest version that I saw online. And this is the Amazon screenshot for it. Now I'm also going to put the links down in the description in case you guys want to purchase these specific ones. Now I'm not affiliated with anyone, I'm just doing it purely for your convenience to minimize on the search time that you're gonna have to do, but I'm not making any money off of it. See, this is another book. This is the older version, McGraw-Hill. They're another reputable company that makes a lot of different test books and test study materials, so I went with them. Now again, these guys also have an updated book. This is the newer one that came on my search, and this is the screenshot for it. So go ahead and check that out. And again, I think both of these books might come with practice tests, but you can go on the links that I'm going to post and see what they have to say about it. So I did the flashcards, I did the study books, and then, like I said, I did practice tests. So what I did is I tried to get more familiar with the material. Let's say I was a little rusty on my math skills. So I would go online, I'd study math. Once I felt comfortable with the math, then I started taking the practice test. Now there's many practice tests you can find online, like that one I showed on the military.com website. There's ones that you can Google and download and do a paper copy of it. And then in those practice books, I believe those come with practice tests as well. And each book is a little different. They're not giving you the exact answers to the test because none of them know exactly what is going to be on the test, and I don't think they're allowed to do that as well. But yeah, so those are the tests that are in the book that you can take, and they will have hopefully all the different sections that are on the ASVAB. Now, another thing that I studied, and this was just specifically for the math, because on a time test, speed is important. So I wanted to not only know how to do things like addition and subtraction, but I wanted to know how to do them fast, or remember how to do it fast. So just like if I was practicing for a race, I dug back into my elementary school years, and I remember taking these, and so I just searched online and found some of these addition. I did multiplication, I did subtraction, I did division, just real basic stuff and nothing too crazy, but you can find these on a quick Google image search. So anyways, that's about it. I mean, other than that, it's a pretty basic test. It's not like taking the bar exam or anything, and it's not meant to be too difficult. It's gauging your basic aptitude at basic subjects that you learned in high school. Now, I'm not saying it's a complete walk in the park. You definitely do want to study, and like I said, just like getting a C or B in school, you could probably show up and get a mediocre grade or a decent grade, especially if you're a smart person. But why not put in a little effort, put an extra week or two in to study, and then get the best score possible? Could pay off in the future, could even just get you a better job right off the bat. All right, so that's about it as far as tips and tricks that I have. Now I just want to say a few things before I let you go. The first is, If you get a high ASVAB, does it mean that you're a genius? No. It's just a basic aptitude test for basic skills, things that you were taught in high school. You don't have to be a genius to get a perfect score or to get a high score. It helps to be smart, it helps to pay attention in school, it helps to study for sure. So if you want the best score possible, do those things. Second thing, will a high ASVAB score guarantee that you get the job that you want? No. Now, the way the military works, there are certain jobs that require a minimum score on the test, but just because you meet that minimum score doesn't mean that there will be positions available. So you may want to be a journalist, or you might want to be a linguist, and you might get a passing score that would qualify you for that, but when you go to apply, they may not have any positions open, because it just all depends on the needs of the military, that branch at that time. So what you can do is you can either take another job, or what I did is I was set on a certain job. I knew what I wanted, and so even though the recruiter didn't want me to delay, because they never do. Now, the recruiter might try to pressure you into joining right away and telling you that no, you need to join, you don't need to wait, just join and you can switch. Don't listen to that, because that's not true. Once you get in, there's not always the flexibility to choose. In fact, there usually isn't. They kind of want you to stick with what you chose, especially when you first get in. Luckily, when I went in, I had a recruiter who was good, he was patient, and he actually looked out for me. So what I did is when I went to apply, I knew what job I wanted, and I was pretty dead set on that one job. And so I waited until a slot became available. I had a qualifying score for it, and so I was like, this is what I want. I don't care if I have to wait a month or 2 months or 6 months. I'm willing to wait for it. So, but that was my position. You may not have the luxury of time, but that is one thing to know. But you still want to get as good of a score as possible. That way, if there is a position available, you will have the minimum score required to get that job. Another question people may have is, if you get a high score on the ASVAB, does that guarantee that you will do well in the military? And the answer to that is also no. So the ASVAB just tests for basic skills like I listed earlier: math, writing, reading comprehension, basic mechanical skills, basic science, things like that. However, getting along in society and getting along in work or any environment requires a lot more than just those skills. So the ASVAB doesn't test for personality skills, it doesn't test for street smarts, it doesn't test for a lot of other things that could make or break you as a person and as a sailor or Marine or soldier or airman. You could still do very well on it and not like the military, or you may not like your job. And also, every command and every job is different too. You may think that you're going to go in and just do well in any environment because you're like, hey, I smoked this test, I'm gonna be a hot shot and go in. It's not necessarily true, right? And then there's also the physical side of the job too. So the ASVAB is just one part of the equation in determining your success or if you're a good fit for the military. Well, anyways, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the information that I was able to share, and hopefully it benefits at least a few of you, and that you are able to do well on your ASVAB, and if you end up joining the military, do well in your military career as well. And if you liked this information, go ahead to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it. That helps out my algorithm, helps other people find out information that could help them as well. So thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.